Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, December the 12th, and it is a gray, overcast day, not terribly sunny, or at least not terribly sunny where I am. The temperatures are decent. They are above zero, but the weather forecasters are saying this is probably the nicest of several days because later this week we're going to have a cold snap, so I'm going to be chilly. So I'm taking advantage of the still nicer weather and filming in here. It's not terribly warm in here, but I'm still doing it in here. Today is the third week of Advent. So this is from the liturgy of my faith. This is the week that is celebrated as the Joy Week, and the Joy Candle is lit. So for those of you celebrating, happy Advent to you. For those of you who are celebrating other things, happy celebrations, whatever you're choosing to celebrate this month. All right, let's talk about a little bit about the comments from last week. Thank you for the very kind words about my Remember piece. I love it. I think it's lovely, lovely. I still haven't found my needle nose pliers. So I am going to see my parents later this week, and I'm going to take my Remember piece because my dad has like tools coming out the wazoo of all sorts and shapes and sizes, so it should be no problem for him to get that thing off so I can stitch it. So it should be going on. It should be going on so that it will truly be finished, including the charm by the time I do my year in review, which will be the last Sunday in December, which is December the 26th. Charlotte, as usual, had an interesting comment. She suggested that maybe I stitch the heart behind it and put the crest, because it is a little bit skinnier than the heart. And it was an interesting comment. I'm not fond of stitching hearts. I don't like hearts on my pieces. So I usually take a heart and I turn it into a diamond. So take the comment, change it into a diamond. It made me think. So I had a little moment where I was like, if I sort of did three layers and took from the darkest, starting at the darkest and doing the next two in to fill in my diamond and putting the charm over top of that. So it made me think. So thank you for the comment, because it's making me think, and I might do that. As I say, tune in for the show on the that I will be recording on the 26th to see what my final decision is on that. But thank you for the kind words. Okay, let's talk about my birthday. My birthday is this week. It is on the 15th, which is a Wednesday. And as I have said to you before, I have a birthday start, which you're not going to see until next week. I'm not expecting that it's going to be a huge start, so don't get excited about that. But it will be another piece that I add to the queue. What I'm hoping to do is I am hoping to do a post on my Instagram, which is CityStitcher52, and I will put the link to my Instagram page in the notes below. Because what I'm inviting you to do to help celebrate my birthday, stitch on my birthday, which is the 15th. So this is not one of those birthday cells where it's got to be a specific piece or a specific designer or anything like that. Let's not do that, because you know I don't do well with those either. So my birthday sal is stitch something on my birthday, and if you happen to have an Instagram account and are wanting to share, my goal is on the morning of the 15th to put some post up. I don't know what it's going to say about it's my birthday and we're celebrating with stitching, and then you can just reply in the comments and do a post on there. I think you can post to my post with a picture. I think so. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, we'll try that. And if not, you can just post on there saying I did stitch, and give me the name of what you stitched on, even if we can't get the pictures going. Again, not the best at the Instagram thing, so in my head this is going to work, but really the goal is stitch on my birthday, think of me and go, I'm celebrating your birthday. That would be awesome. Any designer, any piece, any amount, no, as usual, the kind of stitch along I like, which is whatever you want, however you want, that will be awesome. So that will be my birthday sal. All right. Okay, let's talk about a couple of the comments about opalescent fabric. And it was funny that I had done my topic last week being opalescent fabric because I was watching another Flosstube later in the week, and she had gotten a comment from one of her viewers saying, I'm working on opalescent fabric and I'm having a really hard time because there's more spaces than I'm used to. There's more spaces than I think there should be. And in my head, I had a little bit of a chuckle because I, of course, went, so on my Lugana, one of the issues is that sometimes there isn't a space because the metallic thread that's being woven in looks like it's covering it up. In my head, I went, so she's clearly working on opalescent linen, and that extra opalescent fiber is separated from the rest of them, and now it's giving her, like, if she's not loving working on linen, there's just one more fiber in there to deal with. So I kind of had a little bit of a chuckle saying, oh my goodness, there's more holes than there should be. What am I supposed to do? Now, the Flosstuber was smart, and she knew exactly what advice to give her, and it was all good and all that kind of stuff. But I had the timing of the question and the timing of it being addressed, in my head, I thought was a little bit funny, going, 'tis the season for people to be working on opalescent to try to give their project a little bit of sparkle. And yes, several of you commented that you enjoy working on sparkle. That's great. Several of you commented that you haven't tried it yet, and you were surprised about hearing that it was going to be a different experience. And my other add-on note is, as with anything I talk about, your experience is your experience. So you could get on there, you could be working for your first time on opalescent fabric and go, I don't understand what the hullabaloo is, and that's great. If you're one of those people who get on there and work on opalescent for the first time and go, oh, now I understand why people say it's a different experience, there you go. But it's like people when they're moving from Aida onto linen, where they go, I don't understand what the problem is, and then some people go like, this is so hard, I can't do it, and I'm sticking with Aida. Your experience is going to be your experience. It was just, again, because I'd seen some commentary about opalescent fabrics and people talking about it. That's why I chose to talk about it, particularly because my December focus piece, I'm stitching on an opalescent fabric. So let's get right into the stitching. For those of you playing along, and some of you are, and some of you aren't, which is totally fine too, yes, I did my usual. I showed my piece and I didn't tell you exactly what it was. And as usual, some of you are really smart and you figured it out, no problem, which is great. There's a part of me that says I like keeping it a guess because for those of you who like playing along, it may give you an opportunity to sort of find different designers before we actually get there. Anyway, so yes, my focus piece for December is Christmas Quilts by Rosewood Manor. So that's what the cover looks like. Again, as we talked about last week, they've got this picture down here where it shows that the tree is being done with eyelets, which is not what I did. And that gives you a better close-up of those 1/1 stitches with the Rainbow Gallery Petite Treasure braid to look like ornaments on it. So this is my focus piece for this month. And I started off doing really well. And I ended up not great. So with that caveat in place, I was looking to see where my best... I do have the props here, oops, and I should maybe not have it upside down. All right, so this is what I got accomplished this week. I have added, so as I mentioned last week when I showed you this particular motif, there were 5 more colors left to go in here. At this point in time, I've added 1 out of the 5. So there's still 4 more colors to go in before this motif is completed. One of the colors was a green. So technically, although really hard to tell, there's 3 colors of green in that little diamond motif. And so I did the green because it was one of the 2 greens that I was using up here for the garland. was going to say, what is it? It's not a wreath. It's not, anyway, I got there. Garland, the garland up here at the top. And originally I was planning on only doing the garland for the one page that I was working on, which goes to about here. That's about a page. And then I just went, you've got the hang of it, so just finish the garland while you're there. So I just kept going in both directions, and so I finished all the garland that goes all the way across the top. Now there's more things to go. You've got these two corners that are different that need to go up the top, but the garland is up there. The garland has not been decorated yet, so there are ornaments that go on here. My goal for this week is actually to work on putting the ornaments on all of this garland, and then maybe working on trying to finish off this page where I started, so that I would have an actual honest to goodness page finish. So that was going really well. I discovered I had made an error here in my letters, and I looked at it and went, never mind, you can fix it. As you go forward, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. It's not going to screw. This is correct. This is correct. I lined up the garland with all of this. That part's fine. It's going to work out fine. So I continued on with my letters. I was hoping to have all of Christmas finished. And then I got to the S, and I stitched the S, and I started at the bottom and was working my way up to the top. And I was like, this isn't lining up with the rest of the letters. And on the chart, it does not line up with the rest of the letters. But in typical fashion, I went back to the cover photo and said, does it really, is this S not aligned top and bottom with the rest of the letters? And it is. So I went back onto the Rosewood Manor website. So Rosewood Manor does not have a page where they have all of their errors or oopsies or corrections or whatever. Any correction is buried down in the individual chart. So when I went and I hauled up Christmas quilts on the Rosewood Manor site, it does say there is an error in the chart. And so the first S in the chart is up one space on the graph more than it should be. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. So I was going to take it out. And here's another thing about opalescent fabric. It's really, really hard on your floss. And so taking it out, so the thread that I had used for the S the first go around was unsavable by the time I was unstitching it through this opalescent fabric. It was just absolutely shredded. And I was like, so it was a note to self to say, hey, when you're working on opalescent, don't forget, if you have to take something out, you might as well just, carefully snip it out as opposed to trying to save the fiber, because my fiber was unsavable. Okay, fine. So then I put the S back in, and then I worked on the T. And then I had, as usual, so I didn't find the error in here until I was coming up to the top. So I had like 75% of the S done before I had to rip it out and restitch it. And then I did the same thing on the T because I followed the pattern. And so I counted over from the S the way the S was on the chart. Stitched about 75% of the T. I went, it's in the wrong spot. And had to rip that one out. And at that point I went, we need to leave the letters alone for a bit. So I came down here and worked a little bit more on these motifs over here, because I was just using some, again, the green here is one of the greens that's used in the garland, so I just continued on my merry path and used that all up, and I haven't gotten back. So this week's goal is I want to finish the word Christmas, and then I want to work on putting the ornaments onto the garland and start my birthday sal piece. So that's my stitching for this week. Not a huge amount. Let's talk about the temperature tree. I didn't even bring it in. I didn't stitch on it this week. I pulled it out to stitch on it, and I went into my bag and looked at the bag and went, these are the colors that I bought that are the not good colors. Remember, I went out and I got some anchor and some things and I pulled them in and I just looked straight. All I had to do was look in the bag and go, oh yeah, these are the not right ones. So remember what I showed them and I said, this is the one that I think is good. It didn't end up in the bag. So I don't know what gem of a place I've put it. And clearly the ones none of the ones in the bag would work. So until I find that skein, the temperature tree is back in to hold. I'm at the point going, if I end up having to rip out that whole dumb tree, I'm going to be really, 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 really annoyed with myself. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So I'm not sure that I've got plans this week to stitch on the temperature tree because, again, I've got some specific goals that I want to accomplish on my Christmas quilts, and I've got my new start for my birthday. And again, my exact plan for how long I'm going to stitch on that, how many days I'm going to stitch on it, when it's going to go away is utterly unknown at this point in time. But yes, I'm going to hold this up one more time. I didn't choose this because it coordinates with my outfit. But yes, so this is Christmas Quilts by Rosewood Manor. Let's see if we can't make that the screen capture. And that's my focus piece for this month. Okay. So yeah, sadly not an uber amount of stitching to be shown. Let's talk about some Stashquisitions. Yeah, okay, sorry, just checking the notes over here. So have a little bit of Stashquisitions. One, I picked up some Swiss chocolate from Weeks Dye Works. This is the color that I've been trying to get for some of the things that I'm expecting to work on in 2022, and this has been a really hard color for me to come by. So one of my LNSs managed to get some in, and so I scooped up 2 skeins. I think I probably only need one, but because it has been such a long time in coming, they graciously, and I've got several shops that when I go like, oh, do you have this or do you have that? They go, yes, we have. They say we have one, and then they usually tell me if they have more than one, because usually I'm the one that is easily suckered into, oh, you have 2 of those? I'll take 2 of those. I also picked up another skein of Cranberry Belle Soie from Classic Colorworks. This is for a very specific project, but I don't think it's coming out in 2022, but I'm piecing it together. And then the rest of it is, let's start with the other charts. I didn't take them out of their bags because they're in like those really, not great bags to get things out of. So I've got 2 charts from the Sampler Company, which is, the Sampler Company designs are by Brenda Keyes. Brenda Keyes is also the author of that Ultimate Sampler Motif book that I showed, I think, way back in the summer, which is a fantastic motif book. It's a fantastic motif book. I'm so glad I have it in my stash. So I got this one. This is called Floral Sampler. So there's going to be a little bit of glare on there. Looks like that. Now, I like the concept of this, and I did check. So as you may or may not be doing this. So the background fabric for this is a white or an antique white or something like that. And so all of these background shades that you see behind these other floral motifs are stitched. So this turns into a very stitch heavy piece on this outer border. But what it allows me to do is it allows me to change the color. So I find the color of green that she's used as the background here is a little too yellow for me. And so, 10 years from now, I will decide what that background color is going to be and adjust. Now, the other funny thing is when I was picking this up from my LNS that I'd ordered it through, again, she was trying to be very helpful, and she said, do you want me to send you a picture of the the color key for this chart so that if you need me to add anything. But the sampler company, certainly this one and the other one I'm going to show you, are all done in DMCs. And I kind of laughed and I said, no, it's all DMC and I'm good, because 8, 10, 12 years from now, when I start to stitch this, we'll worry about what my DMC stash looks like at that point in time. And she kind of had a bit of a chuckle because, you know, we all know some of them I start fairly soon after I get them. As we all know, if you've been watching me for any time this year, I've been starting charts that I've had in my stash for 20 years, but at least they're now getting started. So there's that one. So this is called Floral Sampler by the Sampler Company. And the other one that I picked up is this one. It's called Sweet Humility, because we all know I have a problem with houses. Now, this one, the other complication is when Stephanie from Just Keep Stitching went to Galleria, and she showed her, like, she did a video clips of going through the rooms of designers that were there, and the Silver Needle, who had a sort of an on-site boutique to shop at and all that kind of stuff. This was on the Silver Needles, in the Silver Needle area, and it was sitting on a wall. And, you know, so Stephanie's doing your little pan and focusing on certain ones. She did not focus on this one, so I had to scroll back in the video and pause it and enlarge it, and because I was like, because it was one of those like, what is that one way back there on the wall that you're not focusing on? What's that one? And again, so through the through my sleuthing skills on the internet, I was able to identify this chart. It's called Sweet Humility Sampler. And again, so because I'd seen a model on a video, that's what sent me down this path. And of course, because charts shouldn't travel alone, everybody needs it, but anyway, whatever, however I explain that. So this is, I got 2 from the Sampler Company. But yeah, so that one was there. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And then this one was an add-on. So when they called to let me know that my order had arrived and these charts had arrived for me, that was great. And you know, as you always do, you kind of look at a couple of things on the website. And so I asked if they had this particular chart in the shop. If they didn't have it in the shop, I wasn't going to get it. I was totally fine. But they had it in the shop, so it came home. This is from the Heart and Hand. So this is what the chart looks like. This is called Christmas Tiny Town, because as we all know, I have a problem with houses. And there's nothing like a bunch of houses. Now, it looks like from the back that they've got other tiny towns. I don't think I have any of the other tiny towns, but so they've done it here all lined out. They've also shown it here that you could do it as a drum. The other thing that I want to talk, so this does come with these so there's 4 snowflake buttons. And those buttons do come with the chart. But so this chart calls for 13 hand-dyed fibers, and they are, so the called for are a combination of Classic Colorworks and Weeks Dye Works. And I was talking to a friend of mine after I brought it home and went, so this is just my personal thoughts on this, where I go, generally on a chart of this size, and so the stitch count is 176 wide by 30 high. So what did they do it on? So they did it on 32 count doubloon. So it ends up being 11 inches wide by just under 2 inches tall. There's no way that generally I would use hand-dyed fibers for a chart of this size. It just doesn't make sense. So for example, one of the colors is a bright aqua, and it is used for a flag in the pennant in each of the 3 little pennant areas, and then there's like about 3 or 4 stitches elsewhere in a couple of other spots. There's no way I'm gonna get the called for hand dyed to do that. Now, there are a couple of spots, like, so the green in this house, there is a possibility, depending on which green it is, that you could see the variegation. So that I might do. I'm probably not going to use the called for because it's probably going to turn out to be too yellow. And the color of this beige, which I'm probably going to change to a gray anyway. So when it's a large enough house like this, I could see using a hand dyed fiber. But largely where the colors are being stitched, there just are not enough stitches for you to get the variegation to be able to see the variegation. So this is just an example where I've looked at the chart. So several sites that I know, they give you the option of adding the chart to your cart, adding the linen, the called for linen to it, and everything that you need to get it done. But this is one where one of my cautionary notes comes in saying, careful, careful when you do that, because we all know a couple of things. One, sometimes the cover pictures do not do it justice, or whatever they've done in the process of how they get their cover picture, it is different than what you see the called for. Also, as we've been going through this pandemic, like the dyes have been changing and people have been reformulating things and all sorts of things have been happening. So I think those are reasons for me why I generally do not tend to get the let me get all the called for, because I may need to change it. Even in this Sweet Humility, even though I have seen a stitched model of this, I've looked at the DMC threads in here and I went, yeah, there's still threads in here that I'm probably going to change the colors slightly. I'm not going to change them entirely, but I am going to change them slightly so that they're more my color palette. Yeah, 8, 10, 12 years from now when I do that. But this one for sure is one where I go, I really doubt that I would go for the hand-dyed fibers for a chart of this size. And it was funny because, so as my friend and I were having this chart, it made me think of Ink Circles has that Rabbit series out. And my recollection is that I think all of them call for Gloriana silks. So again, they're smallish charts. But I remember, I think I was looking at one where it was like maybe 11 colors of Gloriana silk for a really small chart. And I'm like, those are ones where I have to admit there's a part of me that gets annoyed with designers where I know that they're trying to promote brands and the brands of floss have given them the things to use in their designs, and I get all of that. But I, as a consumer of the designs, go, if it's like 8 or 9 stitches of that color before I move on to a different color, I'm not sure that the hand dyed is really bringing anything to the table. So that's just me. That's my little soapbox, etc., etc. But anyway, so I've got those. Again, thrilled that this is in my stash. This is not going to be my birthday start, but it did make me think that I might start this for my birthday, but I don't know. I still have until Wednesday to do my final decision about my birthday start. Anyway. Okay. So that's the Stashquisitions. So I did get a comment on last week's video that someone was hoping that I would put the links, because I gave you the links for part 1 and part 2 for the free Christmas chart from Historische Stickmuster, and they had asked if I would put in parts 3 and 4, and the answer is yes. I will put the link to, so this week, the link for part 3 should be available, and next week, the link for part 4 should be available. And so I will put those in. I had a period where I was like, right, I'll just put them all together in one time, and I just went, no, best you get them as they're coming out, because I don't know how long that one is going to stay free. So I'm, because they're releasing them on each Sunday in Advent, and since I record on a Sunday, it's pretty easy for me to go download it while I'm doing things related to the video. So that's one of those things. So the link for part 3 will be in the notes below, and I will put part 4 in the notes below next week when it is released. I also did go onto the Silks app on my iPad, and it is free currently as individual parts. So I've got all 3 parts I've gotten in the Silks app on my iPad, and the word that I couldn't remember last week was Android. So the Silks app is only available on Apple products. They do not have an Android compatible version available at this point in time. Okay, the one other thing that I want to talk about is, before we get into the topic for this week, is, see, I have a Christmas decoration here, which was not here before. So this is the, in my Stashquisitions from a few weeks ago, I was talking that I had gone to the dollar store and that I had gotten this plastic ball. Now it's plastic, it's not glass. You can go to craft stores and you can get the glass versions of this. I'm not 100% committed that I'm going to be doing this ad nauseum, and so I figured spending the $1, in fact I got 2 of them, so I spent $2 plus sales tax to get these for my collection. And I thought before we got to the end of the year, I might as well start filling it up, quite frankly, because my ort jar in my stitching area in the next room was overflowing, particularly after I had to rip out an S and a T. Anywho, it's making me think I might need to get a 3rd skein of that particular color because my ripping out has been momentous. Anyway, so I took it out, and yeah, it's gonna have the glare from the ring light, but so I've put it all, everything, all of my orts from this year are in here. See, there's all of that fluff there. Now the funny thing about my ort containers is that they have fairly large openings, and of course they settle and all that kind of stuff, so I really had to pull them out to stuff them down into this thing. So it's not full at this point in time, and I'm not expecting by the end of the year that it will necessarily be full. But it was interesting as I was putting colors in there, because I was doing things where I was looking at them going like, I don't even remember when I used that color. Some of them it was noticeable, like it's going to be hard for you to see, but I was putting in, you can see some of the navy in here, right? So the navy's clearly from my October piece, the Halloween sampler. There were ones when I was putting there, I was like, oh yeah, that's from Mirabilia May when I was working on April's Blue Diamond. So some of them it was interesting, and some of them I looked at and I went, I honestly don't know what you're for. Don't remember when I used that color. Anyway, so it was interesting. So I've put it in there. I will top it off. Again, I haven't decided that I'm going to make this an ongoing thing, but I just thought for fun this year I would put that together, and I figured instead of waiting until, I didn't have anything else, that I would hang and put it together. And I do have this ornament hanger, I think that's what it's actually called, that I got from somebody. They were done with it, and so because they know that I enjoy Christmas, they were like, would you like to have this? And I went, sure. And I didn't really have anything specific that I wanted to hang on it, but I've decided that this is going to be my Christmas decoration for any time that I'm filming in December in this particular room, which I don't know that next week I'll be filming in here, so stay tuned for that one. So there's my ornament with my orts from this year, and like I say, I will at the end of the year top it up. So you may see it again at the first video in 2022, because I will have, actually the year will be finished and I will have put everything in there at that point in time. All right, and with that, let's get into the topic for this week, which is, let's talk about Rosewood Manor. Why? Because my focus piece for this this month is Christmas Quilts by Rosewood Manor Designs. And true to form with several of the designers that I've been working on this year, I do have a collection of charts. I'm really good about collecting the charts. I'm not as good about stitching all of the charts. So here is just a random sampling of things by Rosewood Manor that I have in my stash. And I'm looking down here going, I already know I forgot something, but we'll talk about it when we get there. Some of them are still in plastic, and I'm not taking them out simply because they serve a purpose the way they are in the bag. So this one is called Summer. So this is a smaller one, and it's in the plastic bag because this series, and there's one for each of the seasons, this one is done with variegated floss, and as part of when you get the chart, you get the called for variegated flosses. So that one I've got. This one I showed to you because I think it was earlier this year. I don't think it was last year, but Rosewood Manor was having a sale on, and they're clearing out some of their older things, and they're very clear on their site saying, we are not reprinting these. Once they are sold out of what they have in stock, that's it. They have no intentions of reprinting. And so, but as part of that, this is a note card, so it's blank inside for writing, but it does have the chart for this. And I think it just says, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So far, I've not given it to anybody because I think I'm keeping it for me so I can stitch the chart inside first before I give the card away, which means who knows how long that's going to take. So this one is called Flowers of the Season. And so there's a different design for each of the seasons. So we all know I have a little bit of a thing about things that are seasonal, not to mention my house issue. So you can do them separately or you can do them all together. The funny thing is I do have this as a needle minder from Zappy Dots. And every time I look at it, I go, ugh, I want to stitch that. And I do want to stitch it because I have the chart. Anyway, the other thing that comes with all Rosewood Manor designs like this, and including in my Christmas Quilts one, is besides the chart that they show you on the front, you get other charts as well. And so in my Christmas Quilts one, there are 2 mini ornaments in addition. Now they are takeoffs of motifs that are embedded in this chart. You know, as with many charts, you can just sort of look at a chart and say, okay, well, that would make something nice. And so these are a version of these, but they also have charted, I want to say it's five additional borders. 5 additional borders and 2 ornaments that are set, which are sort of technically coordinating pieces with this. I don't know necessarily that I'm going to stitch those at this point in time. First of all, it's a really big one, so let's get that one done. But it is something of note, you know, if you're looking for things for a smalls exchange or whatever it is, you know, certainly Rosewood Manor charts, if you're looking for like a Rosewood Manor is not a small chart. It's like, don't forget in the majority, so I can't say it happens on all of them, but the majority of them do come with smaller designs embedded in them, which you can use for those. This one, I showed you when I got it. This is called Past and Present, and I got this one because someone was showing their finish on Instagram, and I took one look at it and went, I must have this. This is, again, stunning in real life. I don't think this picture does it any justice because, yeah, the one on Instagram, I was like, you know, one, it had me like, sorry, what's that one called? And how have I not seen it? And then you do that whole like, that's why I didn't pay attention to it. Tulips, hidden tulips. So they have a large number of different flowers that they've got I love this one. It's like, I can't wait to do this. I think that would be so fun to stitch. Anyway, and I do like tulips. So this is one that I don't tend to see people talking about very often. So there was a series of charts by different designers, and it was called the Stitcher. It had Stitcher's Village, and they were trying to do this village, and they had a bunch of different designers do different designs. But for me personally, they didn't sort of hang together as a cohesive set. But not surprisingly, the Rosewood Manor contribution to that endeavor, I think, is stunning. And so it's called English Garden. Yeah, I think it's lovely. And one of these days I'll get around to stitching it. So this is the one where I forgot the extra prop. So this is called Leeds House Sampler. It's me, it's very me. It's all blues and greens and all that kinds of things. And it's, I'm having a hard time reading it in the picture. What does the bottom say? Yes. May the raindrops fall lightly on your brow, etc., etc. Yeah. So this is one of the Rosewood Manor Designs where there is a set of Sullivan's floss that comes as a package to do this in. And so, not surprisingly, when I got this chart, I picked up the Sullivan's floss for that. Now I haven't, not Sullivan's, Sulky's. Sulky threads, that's what it is. So it's Sulky Petites. Again, there's a thread pack for this. I do have the thread pack. I forgot to bring it down with me, but I do have it. And one of these days when I get to stitching this, someone on Instagram has posted about this recently, and again, I just look at it and go like, ugh, I'm going to love it when I get around to doing this. Well, I need to stitch faster, and I need to have more stitching time. Anyway, so Tulip Quilt Sampler. Yeah, I've got a thing for tulips. Now this looks completely different than their other one, and I got this one because a friend of mine stitched this, and it was stunning. Stunning, stunning, stunning. I loved it. And I went, there's a spot in my kitchen where I want this to be hung on the wall. Clearly, I have not stitched it. But again, they've shown you things where, you know, you can just stitch this square as one item, or you can combine assorted things together, right? So again, this is a perfect example where you can just come in and you can just take various pieces out if you wanted to do a small or a scissor fob, or, you know, whatever you wanted. This one, I can't remember. There's a very, very large Rosewood Manor chart that has to do with trees. I want to say it's "and a tree grew," but I don't think that's quite right. Anyway, but it's a very, very large, chart, and I think it's okay. I don't love it. Like, it's okay, but it's one where I go, like, I would never want to stitch that particular one because it's so large and etc., etc. But then I saw this one. So this is similar. So trees, but this is called Music Amongst the Trees. So it's a much, much smaller one. And it says, there's always music amongst the trees in the garden, but our hearts must be very quiet to hear it. So this was more my jam than the other one was. I think, well, knowing Rosewood Manor, she's probably got 3 or 4 that are all tree related, but that's the one that I have in my collection. And again, because I have a thing about tulips, so you'll be able to tell that. So this is called Dreaming of Tulips. And again, so this is the 3rd tulip themed one of Rosewood Manors that I have in my stash, and they're all different. And I love all of them for different reasons, because I think they will all be stunning. And one of these decades, I'm going to get around to doing, like, I have a moment going like, don't you think if I worked on Like if there was 1 year in the 10-year stitching plan, and I just said like every 4 months, let's see, I could work on a different Rosewood Manor for tulips, and anyway, whatever. Check back and see which decade that happens in. But yeah, this is my 3rd tulip one, and I love, even now I look at all 3 of them and go, I still want to stitch all 3 of them. This one is called Many Many Welcomes, and again, it's just a welcome sign. It also comes with different versions. So it also says welcome to our B&B. There's a version in here that says welcome to our stitch group. It's got the floral alphabet so you can customize it, and I felt, anyway, so there's several things that you can do with this one. This one I didn't bother taking out of the plastic. Okay, everybody knows, so Rosewood Manor has these seasonal Quakers. They have all 4 seasons have been released. These, you can also get a set of Valdani threads for each of the 4 seasons. So there's a package of 12 colors per season, and you can get this set through most of your LNS or your online needle workshop can order those in for you for each of these. I think I've pulled out 2. I have all 4 because it's me. So this is Winter Quaker. If I'm going to start one of these seasonal Quakers from Rosewood Manor, this is the one I'm starting with. And I do have the Valdani thread pack for this one as well. This one, again, was part of that Rosewood Manor stash that I got when they were having that sale that I stumbled across. This is called Good Foundations. Yeah, I know. Big house. I do like this one. And again, so this has just got an alphabet border that has words like appreciation, balance, compassion, diligence, excellence, friendship, grace, happiness, etc., etc. I love this. Here's my drinking game for today. How many times can I say I love this one? I love this one. I'm so glad it's in my stash. This is one where I don't know that it's necessarily still available. If it is available, I would say that your best bet is to go to the Rosewood Manor site itself to see if it's still available. I will put a link to the Rosewood Manor site itself in the notes below. I will put a listing of all of these charts down there as well. I won't necessarily put the links to where I got all of mine because these, of course, came from a variety of stores, as is my usual method. So here's Spring Quaker. Again, so it shows you this is the Valdani set. This is the second of the 4 seasons that I would do. So this is called the Berries. So it makes a hanger. And it's called the Berries because when they were designing this, all of the hand-dyed flosses that they were using for this particular chart are berry colors. Yes, I want to stitch them all. And then the final one that I've got here to show you is Rosewood Manor actually has several versions of stockings as well. So this is one that I have in my stash called Ring in Christmas. So, a Quaker motif thing. I don't know when I'm going to get around to this. But if you're looking for stockings and if you aren't wanting to do a dimensions kit, or if you aren't wanting to do 12 of the other things that you've seen there, one of the places that you might go look for a stocking pattern that is not as typical as you see from some of the other designers, you can go to Rosewood Manor. And they have several stockings. So not just this one. I'm pretty sure there is a tree one. There's a Celtic one. They do have several stockings in there. So if you're looking for something, if you're wanting to stitch a stocking and you're looking for something a little bit different, Rosewood Manor might be an option for you if you're struggling trying to figure out which stocking you want to do. And typical of any Rosewood Manor, well, any design that's like this. You don't have to do it in this particular colorway, which they used, right? So this is DMC 814. Sorry, I'm just looking, it's going like, and there's 2 ornament charts in here as well. Yes. Anyway, but DMC 814, right? But if you don't like DMC 814, if you wanted to make this blue or green or pink or purple or orange or brown or whatever, you know, that's the beauty of these types of monochrome designs, is that you could do that as well. So that's a little bit of a tour through the Rosewood Manor designs that I have in my collection. I want to stitch them all. I want to stitch them all, and quite frankly, usually every time I do one of these sort of designer focuses, I love going through my stash and looking at them and reminding myself how much I want to stitch all of them. And I'm now having that, you know, when I do my 10-year stitching plan, maybe one of those years I do need to factor in doing all of those tulips sort of every 4 months start. Anyway, check back later. We'll see how that one works out. And with that, I'm looking around going, I think that's all I've got for you. I do want to say one thing. 1 week ago, I've lost all track of time, when I was talking about that Sherpa blanket that I showed as one of my Stashquisitions. I pulled it out that night and used it and went, oh my goodness, it's like the best thing ever. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Those baby crib quilts that I'm using just to cover up my lap while I'm stitching in the evening are the perfect size for me. It's one of my best finds this year. You know, because I do have other Afghans and things that I use, but like those baby ones are the perfect size while I sit and stitch, just to cover up my legs and give me that extra little bit of warmth that I like, because I tend to be cold, what, 97% of the time? Anyway. And with that, that's all I have for you this week. So I hope everybody is staying safe, staying healthy, and finding some time to stitch. And yes, hopefully, whether you're on Instagram or not, if you want to join me in my birthday sal and just stitch on the 15th, whatever you want, period. That would be awesome. You can sit there and stitch and sort of go, happy birthday, Judy. That would be awesome. So I hope you will participate in your own way on the 15th, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.